Do you remember playing house? My neighbor had this perfect little kitchen with all the accessories, pots, pans, pretend food, even a telephone for when our husbands called home. We cooked our food, rocked our babies, and played out our little domestic lives. Life was so good. Now, fast forward a decade to my first marriage, except now with real babies, real mortgage, and very real emotions. I remember the moment I realized I was living a life I had once dreamed of as a child. Married, kids, the whole package. But this wasn't the dream I wanted anymore. This realization felt like a bird suddenly crashing into a clear window out of nowhere. It changed everything. My sister and I, married by 19, first child by 20. My parents, married by 17, first child by 18. We were checking boxes because that's what we thought life was. That's what we thought you did. But in hindsight, I was a baby having babies. I was trying to make this pretend world real. My life was spiraling deeper into loneliness, dissatisfaction, and eventually divorce. And I stayed for years trying to tell myself that I had to protect the children from the pain I felt when my parents separated. But the truth won't stay hidden forever. I ended my marriage in ways I'm not proud of, but I have since learned how to have compassion for that version of myself. I didn't know any better. I ran from the pain, the guilt, the shame of breaking my kids' home. I numbed myself with distractions, alcohol, cigarettes, even jumping into another relationship. I was descending into suffering. The more I ran, the deeper I fell. Then came my second marriage. This was the opposite of pretend. I thought it was real. The love was so deep and so intense, I thought it would survive anything. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, one day it all shattered. I felt like I had been ran over by a truck, left bleeding on the side of the road, while my husband was driving off in the distance, quickly glancing in the rearview mirror to see what he'd left behind. In this marriage, I identified with the love of my core identity. A stark contrast to my first marriage, where I identified with being a mother, not a partner. This led me to the pain of questioning my own worth and value. Looking back, I see where my ego misled me, separating me from the source of unconditional love, the kind that never deceives, never crumbles, never abandons you. The grief from this realization felt like it would kill me. But here's where things change. This time, I made a conscious decision. I was not going to run from the pain. I chose to feel every bit of the heartache, the guilt, the shame, the unraveling of my core beliefs, and the shattering of my identity. I knew if I didn't face it head on, it would only come back around again to haunt me. And the pain was so sharp, I fantasized on how to end it. But somewhere deep down, I knew this pain was my teacher, forcing me to confront the lessons my soul needed to hear. This time, I wasn't descending. I was waking up. That's when I realized the truth. Not just for myself, but for all of us. Life gives us an endless amount of opportunities to wake up into the power of how we're choosing to participate with life. We all have wounds. We all have relationships. We all have choices. What we choose to do with our choices is critical to our soul's evolution. So I ask you this: what do you do when life gets hard? Who are you at the core of your values and virtues? How are you participating in life? We are here to learn to do better by not repeating the past missed opportunities. We can meet the ego by learning its limited nature and stepping into the authenticity of who we really are. Along with my personal experiences, I have sat with thousands of individuals through their dark night of the soul, their wounds, afflictions, and deep transformations as they confront the shadow parts of themselves, split identities, childhood wounds, ancestral traumas, unconscious fears, shame, and yes, pain. Healing is a journey of self-empowerment. It leads us to higher wisdom. We are all on the same path. We are born into this fool's journey. And along the way, we will either descend into suffering or ascend into awakening. No one escapes this. Whether you know it or not, you are making choices that lead to a cause and effect. You are a co-creator with life. The power we all have is knowing this truth and learning to make choices from a disillusioned place that leads to a happy and meaningful life. Know thyself is the mantra for the soul's journey, leading us back to the place that we all come from and one day will return to. The wise fool is the one that chooses to awaken, leading us beyond the ego's illusions, false identities, and stories. So I leave you with this. Do you keep descending into suffering? Or will you wake up, ascending to the truth of who you really are? There is a true self calling you. Will you? The choice is yours.